Welcome everyone to Webinar Wednesday. I'm delighted that you're all able to join me today. Can everyone see me? Put your hands up if you can see me up on the screen. Fantastic, thank you very much. And can everybody hear me okay? I guess you can, otherwise you wouldn't have asked me, you wouldn't have been responded when I said, can you see me? So put your hands up, just check you can hear me. Okay, great, thank you. So look, not everyone realise it, but if you're in business, then you're in sales. Yeah, we interact with our potential customers and clients in many ways, in person, online, and not forgetting, over the phone. The way to greater sales is to ensure that we're using all of these communication channels effectively to turn suspects into prospects and then into customers. So today, I'm going to share with you some tips and techniques on how you can help people to buy your products or services over the phone and close more sales. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Simon Marshall, and I'm a business growth specialist and executive coach. Now, what do? I change lives for the better. I help businesses succeed, but most of all, I help my clients reach their full potential and achieve their dreams. And I do this by using a simple and systemized approach which benefits businesses with more time, better teams, and more money. So let's take a look at what we're going to be covering today. So this is just an idea of some of the things we're going to be touching on today. Okay, so on this webinar today, you're going to be learning that questions are the answers. Okay, we're going to also build some confidence and trust. Okay, and when I say confidence and trust, that's with the person that you're communicating with. So they've got confidence in you and they trust you. Yeah, and then it's about effectively dealing with objections. Yeah, we'll always get those objections at some point or another. Maybe not on every call, but on some calls. And then finally closing the sale. But what I'd like to do first of all is just actually focus on the bigger picture. Now, the first thing is the significance of the first impressions. It's just so important over the phone, as you know, because when you're in person, they can see you, they can see your body language. So in fact, over the phone is so much more important because they can only hear you. Yeah, they can't see you. So it's so much more important to make a good first impression on the phone than it is over the face, face to face. So with face to face, you've got a whole range of ways in which you can conduct and present yourself. You know, and I've said like body language and eye contact when you're talking and listening, friendly rituals such as handshakes or the way that you're dressed. And look, there's many more, okay? But over the phone, you're not so lucky. You have your voice to portray the way you wish to come across. And that's it. Therefore, the way you start a conversation on the phone is crucial. Because it can set the whole tone for a whole phone call and determine how prospects perceive your business. Now, Maya Angelou, the American poet and civil rights activist, once said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And that's all about creating that first impression. So the other thing to think about is the importance of standards when you're using the phone. So what systems or processes do you have in your business for using the phone? Okay, now look, you're probably all thinking, well, why do I need a system or process for something that's so simple as using the phone? But when you view every call as a potential client, that's why it's very important to train your staff how to use the phone correctly. And I do mean every call, as every call reflects positively or indeed negatively on your business. Okay, it may not be a sales call, but it may be a call to a supplier. It could be somebody phoning you up to sell to you. But it's important that you've got standards to give every person that you speak to a great impression about your business. Yeah, and this is the reason the majority of the companies that in the world are now implementing telephone standards and writing scripts to maintain consistently high levels of service, regardless of who uses the phone. Now, it may be that it's currently only you using the phone. Yeah, maybe you're a small business. But implementing standards now means that when your business grows, you have them in place for your team in the future. So start putting the processes and systems in place now that when you do recruit people, people can follow. Now, who on the call has heard this acronym before? AIDA. Put your hands up if you've heard this acronym before. Okay, so yeah, I've got one person put that. Okay, so only one of you on the call put your hand up. Okay, well let me explain it in a bit more detail. Yeah, so this is a handy tool for ensuring that your communication grabs attention. Yeah, and look, I'm going to share this with you, but this can be used on telephone calls, but it can equally be used, for other marketing techniques. This actually stems from years and years ago, and it actually links to, published adverts and those sort of things. But it translates well into telephone calls as well. So look, these are the four things. So it's attention, interest, desire, and action. Yeah. So these are the four steps you need to take your target market through if you want them to buy from you. The ultimate objective is to get others to take action. Yeah, whatever that action may be. And how you do this is as follows. So first of all, it's action. You need to be quick and direct to grab people's attention and use powerful words. Yeah, you've only got a few seconds, whether that be in an advert or on the phone, to grab somebody's attention, to make them want to listen to you. So you've got to do it quickly, you've got to do it powerfully. The second thing is interest. Now, this is one of the most challenging stages in the AIDA model. Yeah, you've got their attention, but can you engage them? Okay, can you engage with them enough so that they'll want to spend their precious time understanding your message in more detail? Okay, so you've got to get their attention and you've got to keep their interest. Yeah. Gaining the listener's interest is a deeper process than grabbing their attention. Okay, they'll give you a little more time to do it, but you must stay focused on their needs. And we're going to cover this a bit later on today. This means that helping them to pick out the messages that are relevant to them quickly. So ask questions. That's something else I'm going to be going into later on this webinar. Now, the third thing is desire. Yeah, the interest and desire parts of the AIDA model go hand in hand. Yeah, so as you're building up the listener's interest, you also need to help them understand how what you're offering can help them in a real way. The main way of doing this is by appealing to their personal needs and wants. Okay, so explain to them what's in it for them. Get what you need from other people and save time and frustration by learning how to give them good feedback. Okay, so this is something that's key. What's in it for them? Okay, so we'll be talking about that in a bit more detail in a bit. Then the final thing, action. Yeah, so this is the final part. Be very clear about what action you want the person you're speaking to take. So for example, you might say, if you give me your email address, I'll make sure I reserve you a place at the breakthrough event and send you a confirmation. Rather than just leaving people to work out what to do for themselves. So make sure that it's clear what action you want to take, what the next steps are. Now, who on the call thinks that you buy with logic? Okay. No one? What about on the call? Who thinks we buy with emotion? Okay, interesting. Right. Now look, there's a big clue on the screen here. Yeah. We're persuaded by reason, but we're moved by emotion. Emotional decisions may use some logic, but the main driving force is emotion, which either overrides logic or uses a sort of a pseudo logic to support emotional choices. Okay, and this is really common. So another common use of emotion in the decision is to start with logic and then use emotion in the final choice. Okay, so let me just explain this in a bit more detail. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it helps just to understand it a bit. So everyone has three parts to their brain. Yeah. So firstly, there's the reptilian brain, responsible for the fight or flight. And it's located at the top of the spine, close to the back of your skull, back here, yeah? So secondly is the limbic system. And that's commonly called the emotional brain, okay? Naturally responsible for the emotions we feel. And then third, there's the thinking brain, or the third brain, the grey matter as we often refer to it. And that's divided into two halves. The left side responsible for logic thinking and the right side responsible for creative and musical thinking. Now, you may think that all of your customers are rational, logical thinking prospects. It's just not true. Okay, so when we're talking about logic, logic includes things like return on investment, speed of response, quality of product or service, length of warranty, terms of credit. They're all logical things. Yeah. And if we think that all decisions are made at the logical level, then we miss a lot of the communication that is made by the prospect at a differing level. Something that drives decision making and problem solving deeper than we realize. Now, look, you see, humans, and yes, even your prospects, are affected by the emotional contacts we have. Okay, as decisions are made at that deeper level than just the logic. So you may have heard the expression, we buy on emotion, then justify on logic. Well, that's absolutely true, because decision-making processes go through the emotional brain first before being presented to the logical thinking brain. So we need to balance the logical decision the prospect needs to make with the emotional connection they need to have with that decision. So with some prospects, we can talk at length about the benefits of our products or services and what they'll bring to them and their business. And we can wax lyrical about the money they will save with the solution, or show them the figures that will convince them that you can improve their customer loyalty or whatever it may be, okay? But if the emotions haven't bought into what you're proposing, you'll face an uphill struggle. Yeah? So although it may seem obvious that you have the best answer, you still have to balance it out with the emotional connection. So let me give you an example of this. So an example might be, let's see, we have seen how your returns will be greater than with your current supplier, and how the quality of this new widget will benefit your customers. This will make you look good to your customers and your new prospects and allow you to build a future for your department or your business. Okay? So the first part of that sentence appeals to the logical thinking of your prospect. Yeah. We've seen how the returns will be greater than your current supplier and how the quality, yeah, will benefit your customers. That's the logical. They focus on what logically is correct for the prospect, things they probably couldn't disagree with. The next sentence backs up the logical thoughts with emotions. So here you're confirming what the prospect will feel and experience if they go with your solution. It rounds out the thinking of the prospect, giving them the balanced rationale as to why the solution would be right on many levels, not just logical, but on emotional as well. And that's the part that says this will make you look good to your customers and your new prospects and will allow you to build a future for your department or business. So think about how you can create a balance between what the logic says about your product or service and why the prospect should be emotionally connected to your product and service. So look, let me just summarize that. By using both emotion and logic, you create a balance that will determine if the prospect makes the right decision for their business and themselves. So by concentrating on only logic, you miss a large percentage of what makes people make decisions. So you balance the two and you appeal to a much more wider audience and their emotions and us as humans. Okay, so look, hopefully that just gives you a bit of an overview there. Just generally, what I've said there, you can use in many aspects, not just in making sales calls. But let's have a look at more deeply in terms of actually sales calls and how you can put those things into use and some other tips as well. Okay, so look, I mentioned earlier that it was important to have telephone standards. So let's look at an overview of some of the key telephone standards. So what do you think the first performance standard is? Okay, on here, big yellow clue up on the screen there. Type it in the chat box if you've got an idea what that is. Smile, absolutely. Thank you, Helen. So it sounds obvious, but you've got to remember to smile. Believe it or not, the person on the other end of the phone can tell if you're smiling or not. Now, look, you might be having one of those days where everything seems to be going wrong. The last few people you've called have been, not been interested in your products or services. Yeah. In this situation, it's easy to forget to smile. However, yeah, you of course can't allow this to happen. You've got to remember that the person that you're calling has no idea of the kind of day you're having, and they deserve, and emphasis on here, they deserve the same level of enthusiasm. Now, remember, you're not trying to sell something to people that they don't want. Well, to be honest, if you are, stop it. Yeah, you shouldn't be trying to sell things to people they don't want. The definition of selling is professionally helping people to buy. So when you're calling your prospects, you're helping them to buy something that they need. You're helping them to understand how your product or service will benefit them. And they deserve, because you know it will benefit them, they deserve the same level of enthusiasm as the last person you spoke to and as the last person before that. So don't forget to smile. Look, somebody I spoke to recently, they said, look, before every phone call they made, they used to put a pencil in their mouth to make themselves smile and take it out before they made the phone call. So the smile was left out. Whatever makes you smile, just do it, okay? Now, look, one of the other obvious things here, and look, believe me, I speak to a lot of businesses, and some of these simple things are often forgotten. But once the phone is answered, have a positive greeting. Get to know the name of the person that you're talking to. Okay? You may not yet be speaking to the person you want to speak to. It may be a receptionist or a secretary or a gatekeeper. Once you know their name, use it during the course of your call. It's the one way we can easily get someone's attention. It's a sign of courtesy, and it's a way of recognizing them. We all love to hear our own name. So when somebody remembers our name after meeting us, we feel respected and more important. And it makes a positive and lasting impression on us. And it also makes the call more personalized, which is a good thing. So from the start of the conversation, make the person feel comfortable talking to you. Now, the other thing to think about here is perfecting your tone. Yeah, the tone of voice is one of the most important things when on the phone. Yeah, because remember, our voice is the only thing that we've got on the phone. So I always try to be in a cheerful, friendly tone, which can help open up the person I'm speaking to. Okay, it may be a cliche, but it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that has a whole lot of truth to it. Yeah? So look, during a phone call, the person you're talking to can't look at your facial expressions or your body language to tell your mood. So on a call, your tone informs your caller of your state of mind. Okay? On a telephone call, tone makes up 84% of the message. Okay, just think about that. Not the words, the tone. 84% of your message. So your tone should be polite and clear so that your caller understands what you're saying. Your tone, however, doesn't have to be too excited. Yeah. Doing so might come off as if you're faking it. Keep it simple. Let the caller know that you are happy with the business they are giving you or the time that they're giving you, and more than happy to assist with their queries or questions that they might have. Yeah, look, start at the right pace. That's one of the other things to think about here, because again, it's all about tone and language and pace. Never mumble. Speak clearly in a pace that is neither too fast nor too slow. By mumbling, it's likely that important information or details could be misheard, yeah, or lost in translation during the phone call. So it's also important to speak at a pace, as I say, that is neither too fast to the point that it's going to cause a customer to feel overwhelmed and confused, while also avoiding speaking too slow. Talking too slow doesn't paint yourself or your organisation you're representing in the most professional manner. Okay, and it may even insult a customer who could think that you're being patronising. Okay, so have a think about your tone and your pace. So let's look at a little bit more detail in the phone call. So the first challenge, any telemarketer. Now, look, firstly, you may think that you're not a telemarketer. Well, if you're trying to make sales on the phone, then you're a telemarketer. So the first challenge any telemarketer faces is getting through the gatekeeper. So this is the person tasked to screen out any unwanted calls. Okay, so here are some of the techniques used to achieve this. Okay, the first thing is don't get annoyed with the gatekeeper. They're doing their job. That's what they've been told by their boss to achieve. Look, you know, they'd say to the gatekeeper, deal with as many calls as you can, and only if they're important do I want or need to speak to them, because I've got all this other important stuff to focus on. So they're only doing their job. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through an example script here. Yeah, so you might start off with something like the telemarketer answers, and you might say something like, "Hi, is Bob free?" And the telemarketer might say, the gatekeeper might say, "Who's speaking?" And I'd say something like, "This is Simon. Is he in?" Now, the reason that you would say, "Is he in?" is so that the gatekeeper they're thinking if that person is in, if Bob's in, not who Simon is. Okay? So you've said, is he in? So you've changed that, what they're thinking about. Oh, is he in? I don't know. So then if asked, does he know you're calling? Say something like, I hope so. Is he free? If asked what it's about, it's a business proposal. Is he free? The key to getting past the gatekeeper is giving the person the information they want, but not too much that they make a decision as to whether the decision maker will want to talk to you. So if I did that call differently, if I said, hi, it's Simon Marshall here. I'm calling from Action Coach, and I'd like to speak to your decision maker about how I can change their business and how I can get them more money, how I can make their teams more productive, and how I can help them create more time within their business to do the nice things in life. I'm just blurting out everything that, I've told them everything to make a decision. So it's about giving the gatekeeper what they're asking, but not giving them too much. Okay. If the business owner is not available, ask when they'll be back and get the gatekeeper's name. Okay. And finally, thank them for their time. Now, look, a couple of tips here, and you may have picked this up, or some of these up, on that example script that I gave you. Yeah. Always answer the question that they've asked. Don't answer two at once. So if they ask, who's calling? I just say, it's Simon. Is he there? I don't say, it's Simon Marshall from Action Coach. Always ask, after every question, another question. So when you're answering a question, ask another question. Hence why you may have picked up the example script was, is he there? Is he in? Is he free? So after you answer the question, ask another question and give them a prompt. Say something like, oh, if you could just let him know that Simon Marshall's on the phone. Thanks. Okay, look, all of these things will help to get past the gatekeeper to achieve your goal of speaking to a decision maker, the person that you really want to be speaking to. So you've got through to the decision maker. Yeah, so you're now speaking to the decision maker. So here's an overview of the process. So the first thing that you need to do is ask for permission. Say something like, have you got a moment? Okay, it's just polite, just to say, have you got a moment? And keep it vague as well. Don't say, have you got a minute, or have you got a couple of minutes, or have you got 10 minutes? Just say, have you got a moment? Okay. The next thing is to ask questions. I'm not going to go into that in too much detail here because I'm going to go into that in the next slide in a minute. Okay, so you ask loads of questions. You provide solutions. What we have to remember is that there's two reasons why somebody wants to buy your products and, or services. Yeah, two big picture questions. The first one is it takes them away from some sort of pain. It solves a problem for them. Or the second one is it takes them towards a goal, something they want to achieve. Okay, they're the two reasons that people buy. Well, it could be both. Okay, so you're providing solutions to either their pain or to take them closer to their goal of what they want to achieve. Okay, get their agreement. The next thing is to get their agreement. Into what you're offering provides the solution that they need. Okay, so you get them to agree that okay, I can see how that your particular product or service will help me solve my problems or take me closer to my goal. Talk about the investment. Okay, key word there is investment. It's not cost, it's an investment. And tell them what will happen next. Okay, that was the action part that I was talking about earlier. Okay, so we're gonna have a look at this in a bit more detail, but let's firstly have a look at questions. Now, you've probably heard the phrase, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So listen twice as much as you speak. Okay, so put your hands up. Have you heard that phrase before? Yeah, great. Got a couple of hands going up there. Thank you. So, in fact, I believe we need to be listening as much as possible and speaking only when we have something useful to contribute. Okay, so 2 ears and 1 mouth is a good way to get you thinking about, I need to be listening a lot more than I'm speaking. But actually, I think the ratio is slightly wrong. It's not twice as much. It's listening as much as possible and speaking only when we have something useful to contribute. Okay, it gives the prospect the feeling that they've been heard. Okay, and you get the benefit of hearing what the prospect thinks before you share your views. Okay, so Merriam-Webster defines hearing as the process, function, or power of perceiving sound. Okay, the special sense by which noises and tones are received as stimuli. Okay, quite a scientific explanation there, isn't it? But then listening, on the other hand, means to pay attention to sound, to hear something with thoughtful attention and to give consideration. Okay, so there's a difference there between hearing and listening. Okay, so make sure that when you're asking questions, you're listening. So let's have a look at the process for the questioning process. So asking questions is a vital part of the selling process. It's probably one of the key parts, if not the key part of the selling process. Okay, you must ask your customers the right kinds of questions that will lead them to revealing what they need, why they need it, and how badly they want it, which all translates into what they're willing to pay for your product or service. Okay, so beginning with a broad question before honing in on something specific, often used when questioning witnesses, for instance. Okay, so and again, I'll talk about this in a bit, but actually, let me give you an example now. So when somebody's, if the police were questioning a witness, okay, they'd say, for instance, what do you do for a living? Okay, do you work nights? Okay, very, very general questions. Did you see the break-in? Getting a bit deeper now. Was there more than one person? Starting to get a bit more detailed, and so on. So it started off very generic, very wide, and then going down into a bit more detail. Okay, so this is how the process works. Yeah, you ask a question, they answer. Yeah, you ask another question, they answer. Okay, and what we're doing is we're gradually digging deeper. Yeah, with every question. Yeah, and then we keep going. We ask another question, they answer. We ask another question, they answer. Continually to dig deeper until we get to this point. Okay, emotion. We've started to get into the emotional side now of the brain, the decision-making part of the brain. 80% of, as I said earlier, of decisions are made with emotion. What happens then? They ask you a question. They ask you a question about your product or service, and you answer. And that's when you know that they're interested in your product or service, and that likely you're going to get a sale from that. Now, you can't just ask questions and answer, question and answer, question and answer, because there's something else that I've alluded to earlier. I said that you need to do. Okay. One of my favorite quotes by Theodore Roosevelt is this: people don't care how much you know, until they know how much you care. Yeah? So it's human nature to care about ourselves and how people make us feel. So if the next call that your prospect takes is from one of your competitors and your competitor makes them feel more important, chances are your first impression might not have helped you win that business. Now, so how can you make them feel important? By listening. Okay? But it's about, you've got to practice active listening. Now, Stephen Covey has famously said, most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. Okay? So active listening is listening with the intent to understand. So ask questions, take notes, and respond with affirmations that you're paying attention. Remember, people don't want to stay on the phone for long. Okay? They want to be done as quickly as possible. So active listening can help you understand what the prospect seems to need, what's important to them, and how you can add value to them. Okay? So don't just wait for your turn to speak. Yeah? Listen and understand. Use your active listening skills to listen to their needs. Okay? And by listening attentively and providing the prospects with your full attention, you give yourself a better opportunity in understanding them and their situation, which allows you to ask great questions and take great notes. So listening well helps match customers up with the products that genuinely suit their needs, rather than pushing products for which that customer has no real use or desire for. Okay? Which is what I said earlier. Don't sell people things they don't want. Sell people things that they need, that they value. So let's have a look at that process. So we've got the question funnel here. So imagine a funnel, and at the top we ask broad, open-ended questions. Then we drill down into more specific questions before we offer solutions. Yeah? Check we're on track, and then get into the detail of the sale. Okay, so this technique involves starting with general questions, then asking for more and more detail at each level. And look, I mentioned it earlier about the police sort of using this. And this is what detectives use when they're taking a statement from a witness. Okay, so think about this. Let me take you through this sort of process here. So this is how a detective might look to gather more information, asking general questions and gradually getting more into more detail. So they might say, how many people were involved in the fight? Response, about 10. Okay. Were they kids or adults? Mostly kids. What sort of ages were they? About 14, 15. Were any of them wearing anything distinctive? Yeah, several of them had red baseball caps on. Can you remember if there was a logo on any of the caps? Well, actually, now you come to mention it, yes, I remember seeing a big letter N on the cap. Okay, so notice how that's gone from very general questions into very detailed in terms of, so the first thing was how many people. The last question there was, did you notice a logo on their baseball cap? Yeah, so narrowing it, going through that funnel. So the other thing to think about here is open and closed questions. Okay, so how many people on the call know the difference between open and closed questions? Just put your hands up if you know what that is. Okay, a few hands going up. Okay, so great. So look, an open question is a question that starts with how, what, when, where, who, or why. Okay, and it cannot be answered with a simple yes or no. So you'll likely use open questions when you want to help change the mindset of a customer. Yeah, or you want a better understanding of the customer, or you want to show interest in what the customer has to say. Okay, and for these reasons, it's often best to ask open questions as often as possible, and then to follow up with a closed question. Okay, when they want to confirm their understanding of something. Okay, or sorry, when you want to confirm your understanding of something. So you might say, "Oh, look, look, from what you've just said, this is my understanding. Is that correct?" Yeah, and that's a closed question requiring a yes or no. But before that, you've asked loads of open questions. So let me give you some examples here. So an open question might be, "How can I help you?" A closed question would be, "Can I help you?" Yeah. So another question might be, "How did you feel about our customer service today?" So how did you feel? Requires an open answer. Compared to, "Did you experience good customer service today?" It's a closed question, yes or no. "Which features of our service do you like most?" Open question. "Do you like our service?" Closed question. Okay, another example. "What are you looking for?" Okay, as opposed to a closed question, which would be, "Are you interested in anything in particular?" And then let me give you a final example. "What would make you consider using our service again?" Okay, nice open question compared to, "Would you consider using our service again?" So notice the difference there, and how by asking those questions, you get people to talk, and then you use your active listening. So with the question funnel, start with asking open questions. Yeah, ask open questions about the subject in hand, okay, because that'll give you all the information you require to take the conversation further. Yeah, ask probing questions. These are the questions which will allow you to delve deeper into the customer's answers. Okay, so they may have given you a broad answer to your open-ended question, so you want to delve deeper. So ask probing questions. Okay, finding out the reasons and emotions behind those answers. So, like, probing questions, for instance, might be, "Could you give me an example of what you mean by that? How long has that been an issue? Is there anything you can tell me about how it looks or sounds? What happened when you tried to whatever?" Okay. And then once you're going down into the funnel, you then looking to ask closing questions. Asking closed questions allows you to confirm both your own and the customer's understanding of what's been discussed in that specific line of questioning. So as I said, asking, from what I've said, I've understood this, is that correct? Okay, so when you string together your questions in this way, okay, it's known as the question funnel. And these provide a nice guideline for contacts, when you're speaking to people. So think about that structure. Now, look, I love this phrase. The key to this, if you remember anything from this particular subject that I've just discussed on this point, is this: play dumb and dig deep. Okay, just remember, play dumb and dig deep. Ask more and more questions. So look, let me share with you some questions. Now, these questions are from a book by Alan Pease. Questions are the answers. Okay, and in that book, he explains that if your prospect tells you something, they believe it to be true. Whereas if you tell them something, they don't believe you. Now, that's not to say that they think that you're lying. They just don't believe you. And it therefore raises questions and objections. So the key to successful selling is to get the prospect to tell you why they should buy your product or service. Now, you might think this is difficult, but there is, in fact, a simple questioning process comprising of these 5 questions. Okay, so let me just quickly talk you through those. So the first thing to identify is the prospect's DBM, their dominant buying motive. And to do this, you ask, what's your number one priority when buying this product or service? Okay. Then you wait for them to answer, active listening. Great. What made you choose that? Again, wait for them to answer, active listening. I'm interested. Why is that important to you? Then next, what will be the impact if you don't have that? Or when you get that? And the final question, emotional question, how would that make you feel? Okay, so if you learn these 5 questions and practice asking them, I'm confident that it will result in increased sales. Okay, just by practicing and answering those questions. Now, they need to be asked in that order. Yeah. Now, you can tweak them slightly, but keep the general structure of them. Yeah, and using that will increase your sales. Okay, so this is the questioning cycle, just to clarify this. So you question, you listen, you give out positive strokes, and then you ask another question. Okay, so just to emphasize that, you listen, and that you truly listen with the intent to understand, not the intent to respond. So I think a good way of thinking about this is think of yourself as a doctor. You have to ask questions to help solve your prospect's problem or help them achieve their goal. So a doctor, when you go and see a doctor, they ask you loads of questions because they're trying to diagnose, get an understanding of what's wrong with you and how they can solve your problem. So think of yourself as a doctor. And as I say here, give them positive encouragement by saying things like, okay, because remember, you're on the phone. They can't see you nodding or anything like that. So make those noises. Yeah, okay, I've got that. Yeah. Encourage them to keep talking, as the more they tell you, the more you learn. So use phrases such as meaning, okay, just to get them to keep talking. And also the use of silence so that they fill the gap. And finally, make them right, okay? Agree with them by saying things like, that's right, I understand. Don't tell them they're wrong. Yeah, make them right. Now, you've asked loads of questions. So after you've asked a question, what do you think the best way of getting information is? Type it in the chat box. What do you think the best way of getting information is after you've asked a question? Let's see what you put in there. No? Okay. No ideas? Let me tell you. It's silence. Okay? Just stay silent. Let them speak. And listen to what they've got to say. Look, there's a number of benefits of silence. First of all, at the beginning, do you remember I said about building trust with the person that you're speaking to? If you want to develop effective relationships, you've got to build trust. And to build trust, you've got to listen. So when you want to establish a relationship, do not do all the talking. Introduce yourself. Ask questions about the other person and listen. Learn about the other person. When the person realizes you're listening to them, they will listen to you. Okay. Another benefit of silence is that it emphasizes a point. If you use too many words, the point that you want to make can get lost. So silence or fewer words allows you to be heard when it matters. Isn't that weird? Silence allows you to be heard because it does. It emphasizes. If you're silent after saying something, it allows it to sink into people. Okay. Another benefit of silence. Silence when you're negotiating. It can be really nerve-wracking. So when the other person is silent, you wonder what they might be thinking. So turn the tables. Let them wonder what you're thinking. Okay, and with silence, you also build an understanding. Yeah. So I've just slipped through a couple of slides there. Let me get back to where I was. There we go. Okay. So we said about emphasizing the point, negotiation. And what you're doing with silence is you're empowering others. Yeah. So good salespeople empower others. Yeah. Remember, you want to make them feel important. They rarely tell people what to do. Okay. They're good salespeople, this is. Rather, they provide others the opportunity to make the right decision and buy from you. So good salespeople want to know what other people think. So ask, you're the person to share their thoughts with. Let them speak up. Okay? And the next thing about silence is you get the answer. The sooner you become silent, the quicker you will get the answer. Many people are guilty of asking a question and not stopping at the question mark. Yeah, so ask the question and stop. Don't continue with explanations or excuses. These words dilute your questions. Okay? Now look, let me tell you a bit of a quick story here. Okay? So I was with one of my clients and he feared asking certain questions because he was quite a direct person. So overall, asking questions has been a key to my success. Yeah, as a coach, I've got to ask questions. Yeah, but I must admit, in a couple of situations, I was overly aggressive in my sales probing. Okay, and because of that, I may have lost a couple of clients that I could have helped. Okay. Now, I think most people have difficulty in asking critical questions and closing sales because they feel it may be too bold or the relationship might be affected. Okay, so have you ever heard the statement, I don't know how to close? The truth is, the people that say that don't know how to ask key, difficult questions in a diplomatic way. So look, in some ways, I completely understand this. Our whole lives, we're taught not to ask many questions by our parents and our teachers, and you've got to get over it. Yeah. If you want to be effective, you have to learn to ask probing questions and ask for the sale. Okay. So if you're not one to be direct, you must develop ways to ask the questions with some softening techniques, which will allow you and your prospect to be more comfortable. Okay, so I had to learn some of these, but at the same time, I still struggle not to get to the point quickly. However, I respect that not everyone is the same, and everyone tells a little bit differently. Okay, so these are some of the words up here. Yeah, here, can I just ask? By the way, incidentally, some others might be, if you don't mind, what is, or if you don't mind me asking, what is this? Or if I may be so bold. Oh, from what we discussed, what is? Or a great one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but okay, so they're question softeners that you can use if you're not a very direct person. Okay. So look, a little bit here is in terms of never rattle on. Okay, pace yourself. Now, I'm doing a separate webinar in a couple of weeks on this, yeah, because we're all different and we've got preferred ways of being communicated to and how we communicate. Some people are visual, some people are auditory, some people are kinesthetic. Some people make quick decisions and move on. Others want to chat. Others want more detail. Everybody's different. So what we need to do is understand the person that we're speaking to and use their own language. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, jump on my webinar in a couple of weeks. So look, one thing that you need to be asking yourself is WIIFM. What's in it for me? Okay. And the reason I'm saying that is because what you want to do is put yourself in your customer's shoes. What's in it for them? What's the benefits to them? Yeah. What really sets a company apart is the ability to connect and emphasize with their prospects. Put yourself in your prospect's shoes. How would you feel if you were going through their situation? What would you want to hear? What would make you break, what would make or break your experience, or simply brighten your day a little? Okay. So you'd be surprised how much the slightest thing can change the course of someone's day. Yeah. So ask yourself, what's in it for me? Put yourself in your customer's shoes. Then look, what we want to do is we want to check the temperature. Before we close, we want to check the temperature of our caller, of who we're speaking to. How does that fit with you? Is that what you had in mind? And then ask a more detailed question. Okay, so does that fit with how you had in mind? Okay, well, how would you like to pay today? Will that be credit card or check or, okay, well, yeah, look, does that fit with what you had in mind? Great. So what color was it that you wanted to go, or red or black or blue? Now, look, even when we go through this whole process, we're going to get objections. Now, look, objections. Yeah. Now, look, remember what I said earlier. The definition of selling is professionally helping people to buy. And when a prospect raises an objection, it may be because you haven't correctly identified the reasons that they want or need your product or service. And they don't understand the benefits for them. They don't understand the WIIFM, what's in it for me. So these are a few objections up here and what it could actually mean. So if they say, I can't afford that, that's too expensive, what they're really asking is, how is your product service worth my hard-earned cash? I don't have the time. I'm too busy right now. Why should I prioritize this conversation? Okay, over other things that I could be doing right now. Send me some further information. How can I trust you and your company more before making a decision? So what they're really saying is they're asking for more information. You haven't built up that trust yet. Now, how you deal with objections? Yeah, this is the process of dealing with objections. First of all, you've got to say, I understand that, or I get it, or I appreciate that. Then it's about, look, could you elaborate on that for me, please? And listen to them. Get them to explain why they've got that concern or objection. Then say, I see. Are there any other reasons besides that? Because you want to draw out everything. Then say, just supposing for a moment that that were not a concern, or we could allow you that, or you could convince yourself that, then you'd want to go ahead, wouldn't you? Okay, so what you're saying is, if we deal with those objections, then you'd want to go ahead, wouldn't you? If the answer to that is no, then there must be some other reason. And just say, well, may I ask what the other reason is then? And if they say yes, then say, I guess that means we should invest some time to talk about that area in a little more detail. That makes sense, doesn't it? That is the process for dealing with objections. Look, the final thing here is to assume the sale. Yeah, you've got to assume the sale. Be positive, be confident. Yeah. Say things like, when we do your books, or when we cut or color your hair, you're assuming the sale. Yeah. So make sure you're assuming the sale, because at this stage, you're getting to the close. And then the final thing, well, actually, sorry, not the final thing, but confirm the order. As I said, action. Tell the person what's going to happen next. Make sure they understand what's going to happen, what the next steps were going to be. Right, what will happen is I'll send you an email. The email will have this in. You'll need to click on this link, or right, okay, now I've got all your details. Right, I'm going to place the order for you, and I'll update you on when we're going to get it. Tell them what's going to happen next. Then it's about, say thank you. be sure to thank the person that you're speaking to. Now, believe me, easily forgotten. Yeah, gratitude goes a long way. Let your customer know you appreciate their business. And again, if you don't, they may just find somewhere else or someone else who will. Okay. Now look, make sure you don't make the mistake of shutting off your caller. Hang around until they've hung up. Wait until they've hung up and then you hang up after them. You don't want them to feel that you've ended the call suddenly. So let them hang up first. Very simple, but believe me, it makes a massive benefit. Okay, so look, in summary, this is what we've been through today. And I'm conscious of time and I'm just wrapping up now. So look, these are the things that we've gone through. Make sure you smile. Greet people by saying good morning, good afternoon. Listen. Ask questions. What's in it for me? Put yourself in their shoes. Check their temperature by asking, how does that sound? How does that fit with what you wanted? Objection handling. Remember that process for objection handling. Asking them if there's anything else. Confirm the sale, say thank you, and hang up last. Now, look, the final thing here is test and measure. If you want to keep getting better and better and better, test and measure your results. Test and measure what you're doing, how successful you are in your sales or what you're actually doing. Okay? Test every phone call. Change your script slightly. See how that's working for you. Measure the results for it. Change it again. Try something else until you get it right, until you're getting great results. Just keep tweaking it. Okay, so look, type any questions that you've got in there, and whilst you're doing that, I'm just going to tell you briefly. So I mentioned just now about the understanding the person that you're speaking to and understanding how you communicate and how they want to be communicated to. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, register for my webinar on the 27th of October, because we're going to go into a bit more detail. Look, if you'd like to join my Profit Club for a free trial, then join that. It's a fortnightly business building club for owners who enjoy working with peers, but also need guidance and support to build their businesses. Okay, and as I say, it's free for first-time attendees. And also, look, if you're interested in learning more about the 6 steps to a successful business, as I mentioned right at the very beginning, I use a very systemized, structured approach, which I tailor for every customer. But if you'd like to find out more about the 6 steps to a successful business, then join my webinar. Again, it's free on Wednesday, the 3rd of November. And look, everybody that joins these webinars are offer a complimentary coaching session too. So make sure you go onto my website and book yourself in for a complimentary coaching session. Completely free, no sales. We just talk about you and your business and what you want to achieve. Okay, so make sure you book that in. Okay, so any questions come in? Okay, so I've got a quick one here, which was Tara asked earlier about PMP. I had it on one of my previous slides. So just quickly, it's a marketing technique. Stands for phone, mail, phone. Okay, and all it is actually you phone a business to confirm you've got the right details. So you say, okay, so can I just confirm the business owner or whoever you want to speak to, or the person who does your buying or whatever, is this person? Have I got the right address? Have I got the right telephone number? Then you send them a letter, okay? A letter that grabs their attention, follows that AIDA profile: attention, interest, desire, action. And the action would be, one of my team will call you in the next few days to discuss this. And then the second P is the phone. That's when you phone them to follow up on that letter. So it's just a marketing technique, phone, mail, phone. So I hope that explains it briefly, Tara. But if you'd like any further information, let me know. Okay, so no more questions coming at this stage. So look, it's time to get into action. Thanks very much for joining everybody today. Really appreciate it. I feel really bored talking to myself on this. So thank you for joining. And please register for one of those events or a complimentary coaching session. Bye for now. Have a great day.